Okay, so without further ado, I'd like to welcome Captain Todd Eagle. He's actually here in our conference room with me. So I'm going to turn my computer so you guys can all see him. Just about fire safety, what to do, how to put a plan in place. But I'll go ahead and let him talk because he knows more about it than I do. So thank you.
Hello, everybody. Like Miranda said, my name is Captain Todd Eagle with Galion Fire Department. A couple things that we talked about discussing today was just some of the things that we look for in our fire inspections, some of the things we would like to see in fire drills and training and fire safety in our businesses here in town. And I'll try to move through this quickly. If anybody has anything, I guess speak up, whatever. But as far as the inspections go, everything is classified a little bit different, the type of occupancy, what kind of business it is, but I'm going to go over kind of some general things and just give you an idea to think what to think about when I'm coming to visit or getting ready to come visit. Now, of course, if you have any questions at any time, you can always get a hold of me. This is more of an education process, the inspections. Everybody always thinks we're trying to, get people in trouble or, do this or that. It's more about an educating and just being safe. So at the very beginning, if you start from the outside of a building, your access, the first thing is we want to be able to have the building address be visible from the street. Of course, that's going to help with any type of response to your building. It's one of the things a lot of people don't think about, but that is a requirement. The other thing is fire hydrants. While we do, we test them and we maintain them, the biggest thing is to keep them unblocked and, grass and all these things away from it. Anything that will help us get access to a hydrant closest to your facility. And then the other thing is maybe like a lockbox or, keys access. If your business does not have anything like that, we do offer a Knox box system where we carry the keys to a business. It's an outside protected box that you can purchase, and you can put any set of keys that you would want us to have access to in any type of emergency. Okay, and then going on in, we start talking about egress, your means of egress, which is all your exit doors. They should be visible and accessible and fully functionable. Some of the biggest things I see is there's a lot of exit doors that may not get used, all that often. So maybe, exercise them at times, make sure that they open easily. That type of door, the biggest problem is if you don't use it that often, when it does need to be used, it's going to be an emergency situation. So we don't want to cause any, undue stress to people trying to get out. So that's a big thing. And one of the things that I see in most notably in some of our smaller businesses or maybe, things that we're all worried about, break-ins or, just security. Exit doors are not supposed to have any latches, locks, or anything that requires special knowledge or key or tool to open. That's been one of our biggest issues that I've seen. They make panic doors, with the panic, so it can be locked at all times from the outside, but anytime from the inside, it can be open. They do make a couple different types of latches that fall into that same kind of thing, and it's something that I can help you with if that is what you're looking for, but the door should always be easily open from the inside, and there are ways we can make it secure. And all exit doors are supposed to be self-closing and able to latch when they do close. And that's just for the prevention of fire and protection of people once they're outside. And then going with the egress or exit doors, the egress is also considered the pathway to get to the exit. So we have to have, clear access to that. I know some of our, smaller businesses, you see a lot of times, we put things maybe in front of the doors, we're getting ready to take out garbage, those kinds of things. You still want to make sure that you have access at all times. I tell a lot of our businesses, I understand that you put this here and it's only going to be here for 10 or 15 minutes, but We have to think about that. So as long as there is a pathway, and we're always trying to keep at least a 36-inch pathway to the doors, that's very important. The other things too is obviously most people will always notice that to be an egress door, it has to have the exit lighting, has to be illuminated at all times and have battery backup power, and also have to have emergency lighting to point to the way to the door. Most of the time anymore, we see it above the door. As a matter of fact, I think we can even see Miranda's right behind me here is an exit sign with the emergency lighting combination. But a lot of times the emergency lighting is maybe set away from it just to light up a corridor or a hallway to get to it. But it's the same thing. It has to have battery backup, and it kicks on whenever the power goes out. Some of the biggest things is these need to be tested monthly by you. And then when I come, we usually test some of them. Some of our bigger places, if you to go around and press the button on every one is tough. It's easier usually if you have a maintenance people or whatever can kick off a breaker. They'll kick them all on. Kind of exercises the battery anyways a little bit. So it's a way to maintain and make sure that you have working lights. Then when I get in further, some of the bigger things we're looking for is like electrical issues in most of our places is simple things like make sure all wires are covered. You get cover plates on your junction boxes, anything that's being worked on. If you take apart, a fluorescent light, just like one of these above me, make sure the plate, everything is back on so the wires are not exposed. Then the other thing that I have is extension cords. Extension cords are very tough. Extension cords are only supposed to be used in a temporary setting, such as I'm vacuuming and I need extra length. I do come across some, especially offices and stuff, maybe in the wintertime, maybe they need a portable heater. That can be considered temporary if it's only used while somebody's there. I would really ask that it's unplugged, when they're not there. So that is very important. But anything that the extension cord is going to be there for extended amount of time and plugged in and used is against the fire code. Now, we do have things as the power strips. Power strips, I always get that question, are allowed to be used, especially for computers, TVs, and all that draw low amperage. But the biggest thing is they have to be directly plugged into the wall. So you can't, what we call daisy chain, use an extension cord to a power strip or a power strip into another power strip. So they have to be directly plugged into the wall. And then, of course, fire extinguishers are a very important part of every business. Any business, no matter the occupancy type, has to have a minimum amount of extinguishers, and they need to be tested and inspected yearly by qualified people. Generally, it depends on the occupancy again, but generally, an extinguisher needs to be accessible within 75 feet of any part in the building. So in other words, there should be an extinguisher within 75 feet of you, no matter where you are. There are some hazardous type of occupancies that it might reduce that amount by a lot. But the biggest thing is if you talk to these people that come and inspect and test these things, that they can give you the ruling. And if you have any questions, again, you can talk to me about that. The only other thing really with extinguishers as I see is they are supposed to be mounted at all times. They're supposed to be free of any debris or anything around them. You should be able to get to it very easily. And they also are not supposed to be mounted above 5 feet from the floor. Some people might not be able to lift it off the hanger at that point. So they need to be from the bottom of the extinguisher below 5 feet. And then of course, then we get into your suppression systems, whether it's a sprinkler system, restaurants will need to have like a hood suppression systems for their cooking areas. or just any specialty system. We see it sometimes with IT systems. It's just the type of thing that you have to get tested yearly. You need to maintain them and keep them free of dirt and debris. That's some of the biggest things. And as long as you are getting them maintained on a regular schedule, it should be fine. Make sure you keep all paperwork for it, because it is a requirement. It's not only just the tag that they hang on the apparatus. You should be able to get paperwork from the company itself to prove that it was done and what was done. And if there are any violations or things that need to be fixed, they should tell you what they are. And then really the last thing, as far as your typical violations or problems that we have, is just your general maintenance. I kind of touched on them a little bit anyways, with just your, keeping places picked up. You keep away all combustibles, flammable liquids in the correct storage cabinets, and things of that nature. It's really, we tell most people know what they're supposed to do. It's just sometimes it needs to be pointed out or whatever, but just keep a clean house, and it's usually not a problem. I don't know if anybody has a question on any of that.
Nothing's come in yet.
Okay.
So.
Well, I'll just go on. I have a few more things that just to talk about. One of the things Miranda and I discussed was, fire drills and training of the fire escape procedure. I would like to see, more places maybe, do a little bit better with the training or whatever. We try to work with them. It's not like schools. We are dealing with adults here. It's not like we have to have fire drills. You're not required to have fire drills, but everybody should be alerted to the exits. They should be trained, whether, when they're new employees or whatever, on the exits, where they are, especially when you have the new employee or even a floating employee. This isn't a typical place that they work, that maybe they should just be notified of, where the exits are, what to do, what the procedure is. And then of course you are supposed to have maps of the fire exits and the egress system. So make sure those things are maintained and updated as if there's any new construction or changes of the facility. And then the last thing about that is just the fact that if you are going to conduct any type of fire drill, maybe a practice, there's nothing to say that you have to do it, for your larger manufacturing places, you have to do the whole place. You could do different departments at a time, or even just discuss it. But the big thing is there should be a way that you get to make sure everybody gets trained as new. And then also when they do get out, to somehow keep these employees, on scene and have an accountability. That's going to be the biggest thing for us. When we arrive at one of these places, we're going to ask, is everybody out? And we need that. The quicker we know that, the quicker we can help somebody where they are. And then of course, if everybody is out, the quicker we can get to mitigating the fire situation. So same thing, we would be willing to work with anybody, if there would be any kind of questions, or if you need some help, with a plan, a procedure for your business, just let us know. And then really the last thing is just fire safety in itself. One of the things that's the most important is our extinguishers in our businesses. They're in a lot of businesses, they're required to do some type of extinguisher training, teach a person how to use an extinguisher. We do provide that. There's a small charge to it, but we do have a trainer that can come out to your place and show you how to use an extinguisher. Nowadays, we are very fortunate in the sense that 99% of all extinguishers are just the ABC extinguisher. They're all the same. They're very easily operated, and they're much lighter than they used to be. You don't see too many of the water cans anymore. The only real difference you would see, if anybody working in a restaurant facility would understand, that we have a new K extinguisher that's used just for the grease fires. And And that's very important to understand how to use those two different types of extinguishers. And that leads into things with restaurants and those kinds of things, or any other type of business that has specialty considerations or, fire issues. They maybe need a little bit more training, on, like I said, on how to use a K extinguisher. If you're in a manufacturing place and you're using, metals that can combust, there's different things you're going to have to do as well. But the most what we see is with the restaurants. The biggest thing is they need to understand that how the suppression system works in your hood systems, and they need to be trained on that. And a couple of the biggest things is they need to be labeled well. I've come across a couple at times where which place, if I pull this, which suppression system is going to go off. You need to have the right one, and they need to fully understand that if there is a grease fire, probably the first and foremost thing is to pull the suppression system, because that does more than just extinguish the fire, put out a suppression to extinguish the fire. It also cuts off the electric and the gas to those appliances. So it helps mitigate it in that way as well. And then the other thing being, it is the correct type of suppression fluid is what it really is to put out that fire for a grease fire. On grease fires, you do not want to use the ABC extinguisher. That's why you have the K. And if an ABC extinguisher is used, especially like in a restaurant food setting, it does create a dust problem, and it's going to create actually more of a problem than just using your suppression system. So it's definitely behooves you to train your people, and maybe even update them every once in a while, question them, make sure they understand what to do in that situation and how it works. And then the last thing about a suppression system is, I mentioned a little bit earlier that there are some specialty systems in different types of manufacturing processes, or even in your, we see with a lot of IT, your electrical equipment. They don't want to use water. So there's different types of the carbon dioxide, things that will take away oxygen. The people that work in those areas need to understand what the extinguishing agent is, how it works, and for the most part, if it goes off for any reason, you probably need to get away and you need to leave the area, and most likely should make sure all doors are shut behind them. It's just going to help the extinguishing agent work better, and it's going to keep them from harm, which is the most important thing. Like I said, that's pretty much what I have, but the other part is just, I'm willing to work with anybody, and will help with anything and any questions that you have. Feel free to call me or ask anything at this time.
Yeah, we've got some time. So if you guys want to ask any questions, we had a couple fires in Galion within the last year. Can you kind of tell us about what made it, what did they do well? What did they do right that helped save them? I'm thinking one of our larger manufacturers that had a fire, and it had a chance to go bad real quick.
Right.
But
I think the biggest thing with something like that was, was a manufacturing company that, mainly uses wood, and it's a dangerous situation, but they kept distances the way they're supposed to. Everything was spread out. It gave us a chance to be able to prevent it from going from one building to the next, just because of, the distance and the correct things that they did there. And of course, just having alarm systems and all that makes it quicker. And of course, the fire alarm systems are some of the most important, because it just speeds up that process that gives us more chances to do what we need to do.
And then the other fire it could have been a lot worse, because I think we were talking that there was a lot of extension cords, right?
Yeah, we have a couple businesses that, especially in in some of our older buildings and things like that The electrical systems really need updated, and I feel that's really important. Extension cords are the overpowering of those things have caused a lot of problems, and especially in areas where we don't think about it. There's a lot of areas, especially where the public may not go. I can think of especially a lot of our uptown buildings, whether it be the basements or the upper floors that might not be used as much. Those wiring and things are getting old. They need to be updated, but using extension cords even makes it tougher.
And then I wrote down something, this is a completely different topic, but are people allowed to paint fire hydrants whatever color they want? Like you'll see in different towns that like they're painted like orange and blue for Galion. Like, is that permissible, or is it one of those things? I always thought of them as red.
Yeah, we've done some different things with our hydrants and painted them. The only thing that we do is we paint certain parts of the caps certain colors, so that way once we're there we understand if it's this color, that's how much water it can put out. So for the base part of it, we don't really have any regulations. We just ask people to call and let us know they're going to do it. But we have allowed some people to paint those. We just tell them the caps need to be this certain color, and or just leave it the way that is, because that's important to us. So we know pulling up or whatever that we can establish how much water we need and which hydrants can get us that amount of water.
Okay. And if any of our businesses wanted to have you guys come out and do like the fire extinguisher training, like what kind of information would they need to have ahead of time, or what would they need to plan for something like that?
Yeah, the only thing, it really is a quick process. We just need to know the number of people you have. And and we can really run it through, we usually just talk to everybody to, explain about the extinguisher, give them a little bit of knowledge, and then have each person try it. So each person trying it's only a couple minutes each, and 20, 30 minutes, discussing how to use and what type of situations to use the extinguisher in. So easily it'd be less than an hour for most places. Some of the bigger, we have done a couple of the manufacturing places where we kind of spread it out by areas, by shifts and things like that. But we're willing to work with you, and we do what pretty much do whatever you need.
Okay, I'm going to check for questions real quick. If you guys have any questions, please go ahead and type them in the chat or type them in the Q&A. Last thing I had is, so let's say you came to an office like mine today and you don't see a fire extinguisher because for whatever reason it got tucked in a cabinet somewhere. I'm outing myself. Like, you guys don't fine people for that right away, do you? Do you give them a chance to fix it and then come back?
Right. Whenever any violation of the inspection, we normally give 30 days. Now, there are some violations that are so egregious that we might say, you have to have this fixed in a week. But most minor violations or things such as that you have an extinguisher, but it's just not in the right area or not, hanging. I usually just say 30 days. We'll be back, and we'd like to see it in that. We don't usually get into the fine process unless, we feel somebody's not working with us or, just trying to keep putting us off for whatever reason. After, 2 or 3 attempts, then we start talking about that. But like I said, this is not it's not a penalization type of thing. It's more of an education thing. It helps the businesses, which helps our community, which in turn helps us and everything. It's just all part of being part of the community.
Not that I just outed the chamber for keeping our
we'll have to make sure the chamber gets a notice as of today.
And then you guys always are willing to just like answer questions as people need, right? Like, it's not, I feel like sometimes people are afraid to call the police and the fire department because they don't want to get in trouble, but you guys are probably some of the easiest folks to work with. You'd rather prevent stuff ahead of time than be dealing with a huge fire later.
And that has been the biggest thing is, we are there, we're available. I think we're pretty, out in the public, myself being out doing this and everything we do, that we're willing to take on any questions and, help anybody in any way we can.
Okay. I don't think anybody has asked a question. So Stacy, at this time, do you have any other updates? The only thing really for those who came in late, the big mega meeting, I did send that flyer out. And then the September webinars that they had available. If you can't find them, let me know. I'll resend them. But that mega meeting, I think will be really great. And we'll set it up so you guys can watch it like this as well. You can click the link on your own, or you can follow our specific meeting date at this time and follow the link like what we do today.
Nope, I didn't have anything further. You hit the nail on the head. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Captain Todd Eagle, for coming in today. We appreciate it. And I guess we're good to go. Everybody have a good lunch, and we'll see you October 6th for the mega meeting.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.